Like everyone else, phishers are starting to move to HTTPS.
Hi Jim, I think you have a good story about HTTPS padlock being used in lots of phishing sites. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, there was an interesting story in Krebs on Security last week where he noted that the anti-phishing company Phish Labs had recently released some data that showed that 49% of all phishing sites in the third quarter now used HTTPS. So they showed the little padlock in the bar on most browsers. The point that Krebs makes in his article is, for years we've been telling people to look for the little padlock icon in the browser bar. All that really says, though, is that the traffic between the user and the website is encrypted.
It doesn't really imply any trust to that website. It just says that the transaction's communication is secure because it's encrypted. You really need to scrutinize the domains and URLs that you're accessing to make sure that it's not a rogue website.
I've been kind of expecting that it doesn't take much to buy a legitimate certificate that would cause the padlock to show up in the browser bar. So, the phishers are now starting to do that. You can get legitimate certificates for free via Let's Encrypt, or pretty cheap from most of the registrars. So, the bad guys go to all sorts of effort to try to trick us into giving them our credentials, and that's not going to stop anytime soon.
Right. Yeah, 5-10 years ago, the phishers didn't need to do this, but in my opinion, and for good or bad, a lot of this, I think Google was really one of the principal people pushing HTTPS everywhere. And in doing so, it's my opinion, it's made things easier to get a certificate, because now everybody needs to kind of get a certificate in order to have the not insecure display on their Chrome browser for their legitimate website. So the marketplace for SSL certificates has gotten a little bit easier to acquire a certificate as opposed to maybe what it used to be 5-10 years ago. In addition, in the Google search results, they're de-emphasizing non-HTTPS encrypted stuff.
That's true.
So the bad actors have really gotten on the bandwagon now using HTTPS, encrypting their websites.
It also basically, Chrome browser is one of the top browsers, and it kind of forces the bad actors to have incentive to have their certificates in. Basically, we are seeing more of bad stuff with the HTTPS padlock.
Right.
Yeah. The ultimate solution to this is probably difficult, but it's certificate pinning, and to actually authenticate the client and to the server, or so that the client knows that it's really talking to the server it's expecting, and that's you'll see that in some standalone apps, but in just normal web pages, very rarely do you see that kind of mutual authentication of the client and the server to make sure that there's nobody doing man-in-the-middle kinds of stuff on there.
Right. Well, definitely something to be aware of and keep an eye on, especially as a security defender. Like a lot of people probably watch ThreatTraq. Something to be aware of. I know also over the past, I would say, 3 to 4 years, I've seen a lot of malware move to being encrypted as well over HTTPS. Not just phishing like we're talking here, but malware as well has been shifting that direction, which also makes that difficult from a tracking or detection perspective inside large enterprises and whatnot. So, they're pushing the envelope for us, but I do think encrypting traffic is better than not encrypting traffic in general, and it just makes it hard when it's the bad guys that are encrypting.
There always needs to be extra steps we have to perform. that the world is saying that HTTPS with padlock is good and secure. That does not hold true at this point of time.